Chapter 1. No More. The story that is to come. It is extremely pitiful. We, who were once so hot, eventually ended up in a relationship which is far from warm, not quite lukewarm, nor cold, but of a temperature only ambiguous enough to sting, from the day we broke up. There was a strange habit to the man. It was the habit of speaking in a formal language to anyone, not caring for the other person's age or the relationship between them, whenever he felt emotional. A person's heart is truly deceitful, you know. While it does not belong to me, I long to own it. Yet, in reality, when I do get my hands on it, it starts to wilter like a plucked flower. The Olympic Road was rather quiet past rush hour. The woman had finished a warlike deadline and was heading home with the boyfriend who she had not seen in a while. The man sitting on the passenger seat had been silent the whole time until he finally started spouting some nonsensical talk, which was, as well, informal language. The woman turned off the radio that had been soothing the silence within the car until he had opened his mouth. Then she averted her eyes and quietly watched him. Sensing there was a boring speech to come, she let out a soft sigh. The following were the man's words. Of course, it does seem plausible at the moment. While the flower is still stuck on the ground to think of something, of making an ornament or setting up a bouquet, then what can you do? If on the moment one has it in one's hands, the flower that was once lively and the heart that was once warm both soon dry up and die. The expressionless woman took her gaze back and spoke dryly. What are you trying to say? I am saying that you and I are like this. As soon as she finished talking, the man cut in. The woman thought for a moment, frowning. What is he plotting again this time? The man smelled the stench of her displeasure, but being tactless as he was, didn't mind at all as he continued to not look at the woman who glared at him. It often happens in the movies. The moment of meeting one's destined love, time slows down, the whole world turns black and white except for the subjects of the fated love. Oh my God, is what I'm seeing even human? I beg for her to be mine. They babble this sort of nonsense and even feel that it is romantic. It is extremely deplorable. The car being driven by the woman was already entering a small alleyway. Still, I admit, love has the power to turn anyone into a fool, since I felt like that too when I first met you. The problem is that this power never lasts too long, you know. It differs from one individual to the other, but eventually the high wears off, and the moment the rose-colored lenses of the love comes off is when all hell breaks loose. Strangely, it seemed as though the man was almost excited. At such image, the sensation that the man sitting by her side was a stranger started to set within the woman. It felt as if the boyfriend she loved had disappeared. Alright, why don't you stop with this pompous language? Enough of your grease. Look at this. The language you found so endearing annoys you to death. The adorable image of them eating now looks like a pig. Their cute, charming feels like only bothersome nagging. There is no more vivacity when staring into each other's eyes. Holding hands is sweaty and gross. Kissing turned into nothing but more than a habit. The woman's voice came out sharp as she could not take it anymore. Why are you saying these things? What answer do you want? Should I just keep sighing until you're done? The man who had been staring only forward before finally turned his eyes towards the woman. An expression of full conviction. His gaze did not waver. It is extremely pitiful. We, who were once so hot, eventually ended up in a relationship which is far from warm. Not quite lukewarm nor cold, but of a temperature only ambiguous enough to sting. 5 years. The time the two of them had been together. Thrill became familiarity. Familiarity became comfort. Comfort became boredom. Boredom became annoyance, and once again there is a little time left until it becomes hate. By the end of the man's words, the car came to an abrupt halt. They had arrived at their destination. At that moment, living in the same neighborhood turned from the best dating scenario to the worst breakup situation. When we were at our peak, we could not understand other people who did not get over the period of NU and broke up. But we are not different. Should I say it honestly? Our situation is even more serious. We are so tired of each other that we cannot even bother to try and become hot again. Are we not? Just skip the ending, my head hurts. The woman searched inside her purse and pulled out some headache medicine. Now we shall break up due to the same reasons as them. The woman gave no answer. She only grasped the pillowcase firmly. Upon glancing at the woman's state, the man carried on speaking. Don't force yourself to cry. The woman pushed 2 tablets in with water. You couldn't make me cry. As if the first 2 were not enough, the woman swallowed 1 more pill as she answered without any water. Will we stop fronting over who will be the first to say goodbye and each go our own separate way? Lastly, I will whistle that tune you used to like. We will get out of the car heading opposite directions. And when you cannot hear that melancholic whistle anymore, then we shall be definitely over. With her headache blasting, the woman slowly lowered her head to rest on the steering wheel and did not move. The man closed his mouth firmly shut as well, and did not say any more strange things. You bloody romanticist, came the woman's voice in a whisper. How much time passes? Out, the woman said as she raised her head and slowly took out the ring on her 4th finger. The ring was a gift from the man for their first anniversary, when they swore their eternal love for each other. Get out. Go your way, like you said. The man tried to say something before closing his mouth and opened the car door on a whim. Take care. As the man left the car and went his way, the woman simply watched his retreating backside. 5 years. The time the 2 of them had been together. Love is a clown changing its mask many times who had ample time to play with those 2, but a simple take care was enough to make 5 years disappear? Words too short to settle a period of time. As such, she could do nothing but watch his back through the car window, because if she were to go out after him, grab his hand roughly and turn him around, the moment their gazes met, she would see nothing but conviction in his steady eyes. She knew in her heart that the memories of their moments together, falling as tears from her eyes, would not be able to change his mind. She would not be able to read his thoughts by simply looking into his eyes either, because even 5 years together gave them little psychic abilities. Even that was useless in the moment. A quiet street at night, the sound of a whistle was heard even if you tried not to listen. Whether it was cold or dispirited, sad or delighted, it was unclear as the woman mumbled to herself with a chuckle. This whistle. I'm speechless. The woman used to love the sound that came from the man's puckered lips. The man sometimes used to whistle it to her when they were sleeping together after a long day. Nestled in his arms, listening to it, pecking those round lips, she could forget about all the rest of the world. Those magical moments were now only them, leaning on each other. She could still hear the sound of the whistle as the man walked in a slow pace, and so hurried to press the button on the car radio to get herself out of the memories. The sound of a dial-up tone flowed out of the speakers, and the woman leaned her body back on the seat, covering her face with both hands. Why, for God's sake? I've forgotten the meaning of I love you. I love you. I love you. Chapter 2, End of a Day.
Time flows right through people's hands. The time from the moment since parting with him ran by in a flash. But his final words still spun over her ears. Take care. The man's goodbye had been spat out without any grace. Those were his words for their last moment together, that final farewell. Endlessly romantic, while still infinitely selfish. After he left, the woman would often go back to the past, some days, some months, visiting the memories when the man and she were still together. But in the present, it was sad, of course, and naturally, she could not escape the restraint of boring daily life. Or rather, she was passing her days busier and busier, as if to punish herself for missing her ex-boyfriend even now. And since the breakup, the woman's sleeping disorder had come back after 5 years to make her life increasingly more tormenting. Crazy. I'm going crazy. I'm so late. The woman ran inside the building carrying a bag stuffed to the brim, anxiety looming over her back. When she entered the studio, the shooting was already in progress. The woman greeted the others naturally, hoping they would not notice her late arrival. Good morning, everyone. Yes, good morning. After shortly exchanging some excited greetings with the staff, she got herself a seat by the table in the back of the studio and drowned her nerves in a cup of coffee. She worked as a reporter, and today she had an interview with a singer who was having a comeback. The question sheet is here, the recorder as well. Nothing missing? The woman set up the table carefully for the interview. In this hectic manner, the day started well. You worked hard, everyone. The star of today's interview had finished the shoot, greeting and shaking hands with the staff. Then her job was starting. Good morning. You looked good in the shooting. I'm sure you'll do good in the interview as well. Yes, I'll do my best. He was smiling brightly. Then shall we start now? She took her computer and recorder and calmly began the questionnaire. The singer releasing his new album assumed a serious demeanor throughout the interview. The visible passion and dedication he showed for his self-composed piece seemed to remind her of someone else. After a good while conversing about the album, she shifted the subject to ask about his daily life. This might sound like an obvious question, but what do you usually do after finishing your schedule? Let me see. Is it okay if it's something boring? Yes, anything's fine. First thing when I put in the lock code and open the door, there's Rue wagging her tail like crazy at me. Rue? She's the dog of the family, a dachshund. A very charming kid. Other than Rue, sometimes my sister or mom is awake too, but I finish the radio show and get home at around 2:30 in the morning. So usually everyone else is already asleep. He spoke with large hand gestures and many facial expressions as he recalled his end of day. Isn't it a bit depressing that there's only the dog? She asked playfully as if to make the mood a bit lighter. Haha, maybe it is, but it's alright, because there's still other welcoming things. What else then? When I arrive at home, I'm bored and just lay in bed for a while, but Rue thinks that me laying there means I want to play, so she always jumps all over my back. She steps on my shoulders and back like a massage. You can't buy a massage like that. Then I light up an aromatic candle and put my gramophone to warm up. Her typing sped up. Aromatic candles and a gramophone. These are some sophisticated hobbies. Is that so? I like the gloomy and warm atmosphere. To me, lighting up the candles and turning on the record player is a ritual that affirms this day has ended well. Then when you listen to the music, is your day finished? No, I still have to wash up. Firstly, I run the water in the tub. I like to take half-body baths. I purchased a lot of Dead Sea bath salts through the internet, but I think I was scammed. Anyway, turning on the gramophone and filling the bathtub is a moment when everything falls into place. The dog, the scented candles, the record player, and the half-body bathing. There was not a moment when she did not think how much of a romanticist he was. That someone came to mind once again, and she couldn't speak for a moment. Scented candles, gramophone, Dead Sea, salt bathing. You wouldn't happen to sprinkle roses in your bathtub as well, would you? She joked with an awkward chuckle. Haha, it's weird to explain step by step. But this really is my daily routine. Let's talk sophisticated then. I enjoy old music from the time of the analog record player. Music for fancy people, like Julie London, James Brown, Donny Hathaway. The woman giggled one more time. She thought the man's speech and expression were cute. What do you think about while taking your bath? I think about loneliness. It's a little past 2:30 in the morning. Then it's too late to start a conversation with anyone, so I lament that. The woman pitied him a little for that.
Is this what superstar sadness is like? This question is wrong in 2 points. I am not a superstar, and loneliness is not a sorrow for me. Rather, I would say, I enjoy loneliness. You enjoy loneliness? She kept her eyes fixed on the monitor as she continued to type, and the man's eyes were also turned away. Being alone, I don't see it as something that simply disappears once you take care of it. It's just like a shadow that follows you through life. See? Still, some days I feel the need of a pat on the shoulder. And since the thing I told you before comforted me greatly, I am going through a healthy loneliness. At this clear answer, the woman stopped typing and stared at him, their gazes crossing. Eyes of unwavering conviction. For a moment, his face seemed to overlap with that of someone. So, was that it? She wanted to know more of what loneliness was for them. A healthy loneliness, you say? It sure is an interesting way to put it. You think so? I think this type of thing is necessary. A way of consoling yourself that only you know. On some days, you feel lonely. On some days, you're exhausted. And in others, you feel stupid, pathetic even. Of course, there are many happy days too. The important thing is, while the remaining days of our lives seem to stretch out to no end, you need something that can always soothe your emotions. Whether my days are happy or sad, I don't single them out. As my mixed up emotions slowly settle down, it's like the overall image of my feelings that day even out. I might enjoy these dramatic things, but I prefer if the beginning and the ending are balanced, you know? Anything could work for you too, journalist Nim. It does not have to be as complicated as me. In whatever way, if you arrange to end your everyday similarly, it will ease your mind. She had to stop to think for a moment. Because he answered that question so sincerely that she wanted to give back a question in proper way. At this point, she had long realized that they could speak honestly, with no reservations. Therefore, she decided to talk about herself. I sympathize with what you said about having something to balance your emotions. Could you please recommend one of your songs for people like me? On a day when we feel lonely and tired, or a day we feel stupid and pathetic, a song that is good to listen to in this kind of a day? If you're lonely and exhausted and having a hard day, there is a tune you'd like in this situation. It's also related to our conversation. Among my songs, there is End of a Day. Please consider listening to it. It would be a great honor to me if someone listened to this song while finishing their day. At last, the man brought the interview to an end with his recommended song. But she was only more curious. As a journalist, she had met hundreds of people before, but no interview had ever piqued her personal curiosity like this. The more the man talked, the more he showed what a surprising person he was. One she wanted to know more of. The woman came back home after finishing organizing the interview manuscript past midnight in a cafe near the shooting set. Entirely afflicted by the sleep disorder in the aftermath of the breakup, she only wanted to collapse. Her tired body spread out on the bed, staring mindlessly at the ceiling. She suddenly remembered the man's words. On some days, you feel lonely. On some days, you're exhausted. And in others, you feel stupid, pathetic even. Just like her story. Be it while eating or taking a walk, the woman felt truly lonely when the person who would laugh at funny stories or be angry at injustice with her was not by her side. Sometimes she could not even pretend to hold it together and felt like a fool for letting a loved one go. The woman had also been feeling tired several times during the day. You need something that can always soothe your emotions. In whatever way, if you arrange to end your everyday similarly, it will ease your mind. Just like the man said, she was in need of something to neutralize her complexly tangled emotions. The woman got her tired body up on her feet to pull up from the corner of the dresser some aromatic candles she had once received as a gift and ran the water on the bathtub she usually did not care for. While the water poured, she perched herself on the edge of the tub and, having no person or dog who could do messages, giggled while massaging her own calf. I don't have a gramophone though. Thinking for only a moment on whether this would be too much, she searched for a song on her cell phone. End of a Day. Got it. She hit play on the song the man suggested today, and the sound of his voice and piano resonated in the bathroom. Somehow, she had the feeling she was not alone anymore. She undressed her robe in relaxed movements and checked the water temperature. Lukewarm, but a little on the hotter side. She hesitated for a brief moment and slowly, from her toes, dipped into the bathtub. You are my pride.
Chapter 3. Always There, Honesty. Early in the morning, the woman woke up by herself. Perhaps it was because last night she completed her end of the day as the interviewed singer had told her. Although she had been suffering from insomnia since the breakup, that night she had had a sweet sleep. Pretty good idea. Was it really the ritual to finish the day? What a refreshing and welcoming morning it was. In addition, it was also her first day off in a while. Wishing to spend the morning at her own leisure, The woman kept rolling around the bed for some 10 minutes. "I'm hungry. How long since I had a real breakfast?" Having stretched and gotten up, the woman headed to the kitchen and opened the fridge. However, since she did not often have meals at home, the refrigerator was in a similar situation to her empty stomach. Yet, today's morning was too refreshing to eat delivery food. "I'll have cereal. That's enough." While softly pouring the cereal into the bowl, the woman thought carefully on how she would spend such gold precious day off. She only had a few days in the year to take care of herself like this, so she had to spend her time wisely. While softly pouring the cereal into the bowl, the woman thought carefully on how she would spend such gold precious day off. She only had a few days in the year to take care of herself like this, so she had to spend her time wisely. "How about I clean up the house?" The woman was exhausted physically and mentally for sure. What she needed when she felt like that was to get some fresh air out of her daily life. And since cleaning emptied her mind, organizing the house was the perfect thing to do. She turned the piled-up laundry into the washing machine while washing the dishes, changed the bedding, and even cleaned the bathroom. She was so engrossed in her cleaning that her forehead was sweating when she finally started organizing her study. After a while, she was staring pleased at a neatly cleaned desk. Since she was at it, she began organizing the desk drawers as well and reached for the last one. Why did she have to? She had created the perfect holiday, but was so absorbed in finishing it that she opened the forbidden drawer. Oh my, it was already too late. Her body was faster than her mind. The traces of him remained too strongly in that place. And these traces, as if envious of her perfect day, of her who seemed to try to erase him, were getting ready to swallow her up whole. So this is where I put it. In that drawer was a picture she took smiling with the man who broke up with her, a music box that he gifted her, a bunch of useless decorations they brought from a trip to South America. All the evidence of the love he once felt for her was left there, intact. He was there. The woman, now staring blankly at those objects that had lost the meaning of their existence, began to move her hands as she made up her mind, trying to assure herself that there was not a bit of attachment left in those. She grabbed his remains at random and threw them to the trash can. In the middle of it, the blue envelope of a letter caught her eye. That was one of the love letters he used to write. His letters could make even the most boring days more romantic. She hesitated on whether to throw out this letter for a while, but her hands were spreading it open before she knew it. To my dear, it's been a while. We used to exchange letters very often, but now that there's SNS and such, and we can communicate easily with each other without having to leave such long messages, hasn't the world become so comfortable? I think we got a little rusty at this, but how about it? Writing long letters like this can tickle your brain a little, right? How are you doing? We see each other every day, but I wanted to ask this for once, because I keep wondering whether you're fine. The fire of my curiosity spreads endlessly and puts me in a fever. So please answer quickly. Gather every moment of your everyday into droplets and rain it over me. My dear, please calm down my fever. Of course, it's nice to suffer from this happy fever. But time with you, who drenches me icy and tender, is always welcome. Even though we value each other, no matter whether you accept it in or not, we will also hurt each other without meaning to. By the way, have the wounds I gave you not healed yet? I'm sorry if that's the case, if I didn't notice. Then please, show them to me now. Don't be ashamed of these wounds I gave you, because I'm the only one who can remedy them. Every person who loves will be like that. They hurt when they see each other's scars. But I still hope you are not covering your scars so I won't be sad. Even that is part of us, evidence of our memories and love. If you're still embarrassed of showing me all your wounds, then please just hug me tightly. Even if I don't see your scars, I want to feel them through your skin to know you entirely. And I believe so do you. We have been together for a long time, and we will spend even more together. Please reply. Tell me that your heart is the same as mine. I want to exchange I love yous with you at length. That's right. I love you. And to quote that poem you once read to me, I need you. P.S. I sent this together because the lyrics are just like my feelings. The woman read his letter and looked out of the window. The sun of her perfect off day had cowardly hidden away, and the moon of a gloomy night stuck its head out from behind a dark cloud. You bloody romanticist. Actually, she did like this side of the man. Among the countless charms this man had, his romantic image of a man who did not live in reality was the brightest of all. Don't force yourself to cry. It was like she could hear his words. She was crying. I saw you take it harder than me and cried like a child.
Chapter 4. Better Off.
One day, the man who had been enjoying his time by himself after breaking up with the woman felt suddenly lonely, as if it was the first time he had ever been alone. Sleeping, eating, or breathing alone gave him a heart-piercing terror. He yearned for someone to hold his hand. Of course, it was not the first time the man had seen loneliness in his life. He welcomed the occasional solitude with open arms, and thus was quite embarrassed by this blatant loneliness that wished for someone else like never before. What was worrying is that it seemed this loneliness might not pass with time, might never fade away completely and stay locked within his heart. In reality, the agony of being alone crashed around aimlessly inside as it cut at his heart. The man never could have imagined he would face such a brutal loneliness. He needed the right kind of person, not someone to chat idly over drinks, but a person he could confide his childhood stories to. Someone who was not loose-tongued, nor too quiet. Someone who did not disregard his touches but did not hang off him all the time. Someone who did not stress over language formality. Someone who in the heat of the sun and the cold of the snow could be smart as the wind. Someone who bowed above the ankles but still below the knees. He needed that kind of person. He hesitated for a moment as he searched through his contacts. The woman's number still remained there. He wondered whether to press the call button and stopped himself. They left each other for their best, so now he could not just call her to ease his loneliness. A love nurtured from the breast of loneliness knows no fulfillment. He thought to himself how he would prefer to die of loneliness than birth an ungrateful love. The woman always listened to music before going to sleep, and so, from time to time, he used to whistle her a song. The man settled for appeasing his loneliness with the woman's old habit. When he turned on a song, one he had first heard around the time of their breakup, her face appeared dimly to him. How could someone he had spent years together with be this distant and faint after only a few months? She was already being erased from him. So we can both rest at peace. Leave me and go.